This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Welcome to Six Tackles for another week. So much to talk about today. It's been a quite dramatic week in rugby league. Who would be a coach? Brad Arthur sacked a day before his 50th birthday, if you don't mind. Does this trigger a clean-out at Parramatta? The Sharks, the real deal, no question. They face the Panthers in a blockbuster at home on Saturday afternoon. We'll talk about that. What a game. Origin teams named Sunday. A few key decisions to be made. Where does Gus stand on those? The Blues won up in the Women's Origin. Victory at Suncorp. And some excellent Ask Gus questions today. Welcome, Gus.
Matthew Thompson, how you doing?
Pretty good.
That's all right.
A little sniffly, actually. Coming off a cold.
Did you look after yourself up in Brisbane?
I did. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing to do with it. The kids have been sick. My wife's sick. I actually had a couple of days convalescing Monday, Tuesday, so I binged some series. I got some good stuff to recommend to you.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay. A few people came back from Brisbane with the sniffles.
Did they?
Yeah, there's been a few around. A little bit of it going around.
Yes, well, there'll be a few punters up there, I reckon. Might be feeling a bit worse for wear.
I've never seen drunker human beings.
They just give it to themselves.
It's they're just the best Queenslanders.
The weather encourages it. Like, it's sunny, mid-20s.
It's beautiful.
Glorious.
Yeah, absolutely glorious. I went down to the Gold Coast Saturday and watched a bit of schoolboy football down there. I was sitting there in the sun, a pair of shorts and a T-shirt. I got off the plane in Sydney and froze to death. It was absolutely freezing.
Do you know about the round of footy up there at Magic Round? David Middleton told me, as we were preparing to kick off our 4 o'clock game on Sunday, that the average, if you average out all the winning margins, it was 4.7 points, or I'm pretty sure it was 4.7, which represented the closest round of football ever played.
Yeah, we only really had the one blowout score, didn't we? The rest of them were really competitive, and results went either way of favouritism prior to the game. Not that favouritism means anything, but there was really only the one blowout game. That was the Parramatta Eels, and that's led to some big events this week, hasn't it? So, it was a great round of football. Wonderful concept, the Magic Round. Brisbane really embrace it. Queenslanders embrace it. Wonderful time was had by all.
Who were you impressed with the most over Magic Round from a team perspective, Gus?
Two teams stood out for me. Firstly, Sharks. We actually tipped them to beat the Roosters, but I did not expect a scoreline like that. I was very, very impressed with what they did. I came away thinking, they can win a game anyway now. I've seen them win narrow games, close-fought games, slow-scoring games, wet weather, windy weather, under all sorts of conditions. People questioned their draw. I said it was the perfect draw coming into these games. They've beaten the Storm in Melbourne. They're now beating the Roosters. But to beat them in a 68-point shootout, that virtually said, whatever you score, we'll score more, and they did it. They've got the ability to play the game 2 or 3 different ways, and the way that whether they went in against the Roosters, I say a lot that the Roosters score more tries that other teams just won't score. They've got a lot of points in them. Whether they went into the contest saying, you know what, we're not going to keep this team to 10 or 12 points. They're probably going to get 3 or 4 tries anyway. We need to score 4 or 5 tries. Well, in the end, they needed 6 or 7. But extraordinary game for them between those two, 38-30. I would never have thought about that scoreline, but the Sharks were able to win it anyway. And I thought the Warrior, obviously, to beat last year's defending premiers after a run of outs was quite great, quite good for them as well. So I thought the Warrior and the Shark were the 2 best teams on the weekend.
Shark Panther, Saturday, in the Triangle.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll be a cracker.
They're going better.
Penrith, they've got to hit back.
They're going better. Well, Penrith are missing a few, obviously.
Of course.
And over time, you can't be great forever. I mean, it's been wonderful what they've done, but, Sharks have announced themselves as... I said on this podcast a few weeks ago, I said if they got through these 3 games, if they went Storm, Rooster, Panther, they might come out of this period as the premiership favourites. And if they beat Panther on the weekend, then the market will shift, assuredly.
You'll have them favourites if they beat Penrith.
They're entitled to be given as equal chance as any other team in the competition.
I nearly got him. Best player of the round. Jeez, I know they were pretty meek in the second half, Parramatta, but Harry Grant, how good's he playing?
He's wonderful, isn't he?
Oh,
he's wonderful.
He's everywhere, everywhere, all over the field.
I think Nico Hines. If that was a dress rehearsal for an Origin appointment, he couldn't have done any more than he did. I'm not saying he will be picked. I'm just saying that he could not have done any more than what he did in that game the other day. I was really impressed with Selwyn Cobbo at fullback for the Broncos. I thought he was terrific. The young fullback for the Newcastle Knights announced himself as a player.
David Armstrong.
Yep. Tommy Dearden, he had an Origin. He wouldn't have known it at the time, but it was an Origin rehearsal for him as well, because it'll come down to him or Ezra Mam now, I guess, for that 5'8" spot now that Munster's out. They were great games. There was a lot of really good games on the weekend. Very, very competitive affairs, and not many points between them. No.
That's the rule.
Dear.
Fascinating to hear Danny Wyther on 100% Footy on Monday night say Manly are considering a move for Turbo to the centres when he comes back because of these ongoing hamstring issues. Should he move there?
No. He's one of the world's premier fullbacks. He's being paid to be one of the world's premier fullbacks. I wouldn't be moving him. I said on this podcast some weeks ago that it would be a travesty throughout his career if he didn't at least on one or two occasions play New South Wales fullback, because he's just been one of the game's premier scoreboard influences from that position. I understand the run of injuries, and I know that there is a concern now with the amount of time that he's spent out. It's quite unfortunate. Hopefully they can fix it for good this time, but I don't think moving him from fullback is the solution to that. And I don't think that's any solution for Manly, to have him playing in the centres and getting less ball and having less influence on the scoreboard, locked into one side of the field. I think that's a ridiculous suggestion. It might have worked during Origin, but Origin's a bit different. For your club team, you want your best player playing in your best playmaker position. He influences results at fullback. He should be at fullback.
Doesn't mean he won't get injured at centre either, does it?
Of course it doesn't. But, they've paid him to be a fullback. They've paid him to win games and influence results. And when he's fit and well, they do. They've got to get him right. They've got to get his body right and keep him on the field. It's a concern now, but, they just need to get that right. Well, we talked about this on 100% Footy the other night, and we're constantly looking at data and injuries in the game, and patterns that emerge from times to times. Sometimes we had a run of pectoral muscles and tears and all that sort of thing. Then we had a run of something else and back issues and all those sorts of things. And then at the moment we're getting a lot of soft tissue issues, particularly with our playmakers and people in these key positions. And the speed of the game has no doubt increased. The speed of the repetitive speed, the repetitive short-term speed intervals that they're forced to run in this game, the speed of the game, how fast we're moving for longer periods of time. It's just not once. It's consistent. When the ball is in play, the game is moving quicker.
Yep.
The game is moving quicker than it has before, and it takes its toll on the people that do the most kilometres. So fullbacks and halves and these fellas do a lot of kilometres in a game without the ball, just getting into position and getting organised and getting themselves where they need to be in anticipation of what might happen. We only see them when they've got the ball in hand, but they're running a lot of kilometres without the ball, which means they're in a fatigue state when they're then asked to sprint and come up with these high-speed efforts. And it's remarkable, all these players that are having groins, calves, hamstrings, quad strains. I even put it down to things like the amount of vertical leaping we're doing now. There is so much competition for the ball high in the air. Even kickers, the different type of kicking action to kicking a high ball all the time to what kickers used to do, where they kick low into the corners or they kick across field or they'd have the little grubber kicks into the end goal. The kicking games have changed. Now it's just constantly 5 up and put this kick up that lands when the defence gets to them.
Yeah.
Right? So you think about it, go out in the park and just think about kicking long, and then think about kicking high and look at the extra strain that puts on your body, particularly your legs. And I've got no doubt that leads to, unless you're trained for it and ready for it and prepared for it, that put extra strain on. And if you're in a fatigue state, if you just come up with a sprint, then you've got to come up with one of those. So this is what sports science is looking at all the time, and this is what trainers are looking at in how they train them and how they prepare them.
So this is not a coincidence, this spate of injuries? Because as you've mentioned, we've seen varying injuries over the years. You think you can always trace it back to something.
There's always some reason for it. If you actually look into the data and look into what's actually happening in the game, it could be new wrestling techniques, it could be new rules, it could be new ways of playing the game. Our game goes through stages, and with each stage, sometimes that brings into being another risk of injury somewhere along the line. And I've got no doubt with the playmakers and these fellas at the moment, the fatigue level in our games is great because of the speed of the game has increased with ball in play. And then your key playmakers, your fullbacks who are making those sweeping runs and bursts and catching kicks and trying to get away from jumping high for a ball landing and then trying to get away from defenders before they smash them and drive them back into the in goal. All these sorts of different things that come into our game, and it needs a physical response that you can't always train for and you can't always simulate at training. And sports science has become so unique these days, so particular. The trainers are constantly looking for trends, and one of the trends at the moment is the number of high-speed intervals in the game on the back of genuine fatigue, because the game is moving faster all the time. And it's they'll work it out.
Has it got faster this year alone?
Yeah.
Why do you think this year?
I don't know. It could be just, I don't know. I've also got my theory is that players are actually training less. They're training less during the off-season. They're having longer breaks between season because of the new rules, CBA rules and RLPA rules. We can only have them for 4.5 days in an off-season. I don't think it's enough. I think they get too much time off. I think they don't train long enough. And in saying that, that's not being unfairness. They've signed up for this. They're signed up as professional footballers, and we've got to prepare them for the game they're about to play. And we're getting a lot of injuries, and it could be a factor as well. I've got no doubt it is. Others might disagree, but we've got to train them for the game that we're asking them to play with 6 agains and all these types of things that we're doing in the game, the way the game's refereed and officiated, the speed of the ruck and what they've tried to do there. It's all a fact. Every part of it is a factor, and I think it's a factor to the injury toll as well. They'll work it out. The sports science people and the high performance people will work it out. But the game is certainly not going to slow down. It's only going to get quicker. And that comes into your recruitment, it comes into your development, it comes into the type of player that's coming through the system. Look at the number of smaller forwards now, smaller front rowers that are starting to find their mark in the game,
Yeah.
You go through trends. We all go through trends. But no, I wouldn't be moving Tommy Turbo from fullback into the centres for... Man, I couldn't wear that.
Suncorp Stadium is the best football ground in the world, Gus.
No. It was. It's still one of the greatest atmospheres in the world. I think Allianz Stadium is special. I think it's a really special arena. It's more modern technology-wise, and it's more modern in the feel of it and facilities. Suncorp Stadium, up until Allianz, was the best football stadium in the world for our game, a rectangular game.
Let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
We haven't played an Origin at Allianz.
No.
And we probably never will.
Probably never will.
Which is a great shame.
Yeah.
But on Origin
I think
night at Suncorp, there is nothing like it.
No, of course not.
Nothing
That's
like
what I said. The feeling for those sorts of things, is unrivaled. But we did a couple of games when Allianz opened between the Roosters and South Sydney, a semi-final and an end-of-season game. You wouldn't have got better atmosphere for a club game than what we got on those occasions. I think Allianz full house to see an Origin game would be spectacular. I really do. People right on top of the ground. It's beautiful at Homebush because we can get 80,000 people and 80,000 seats in there to watch the people play, but you're still a long way away from the action. If you put Origin, I remember some of my favourite Origins were at the old football stadium.
It was tribal for New South Wales then.
Yeah,
because the partisan blue atmosphere got trapped. Whereas at a core, as great a ground as it is,
no risk.
It doesn't get captured in there as much.
These two more modern grounds in Suncorp and Allianz that are purpose built for rectangular code are perfect. For big crowd and big events. Obviously, the 80,000 seats and everything that we have at Accor Stadium is brilliant. But I would contend that Allianz is more modern, the technology is better, and that if we happen to have a big game there, like a grand final or an Origin game, it would have a very, very special feel about it. Certainly, it could match what Suncorp gives. Mind you, I've always said you haven't experienced Origin until you've experienced it in Brisbane.
He just doesn't want to say yes because it's in Brisbane.
No?
He just don't want to say yes because
I've turned on Queensland.
You're off him. You've been off him for 40 years.
Yeah.
Souths will win this week with Walker and White in the halves.
Yeah, I had a sneaking suspicion they would improve last week, and they did. I thought they were much, much better. And I think this is a positive move. I think getting both Cody Walker and Whiten on the ball, I don't know who's going to play on the right side of the field or how they might marshal the troops there, but I think it's getting to the point. Who do they play this week? They play Parramatta. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah.
That might be the most interesting bad game ever.
I think South will win a number of games between now and the end of the year. I think things will turn around.
And you think that's how they'll stick? Walker 7, Whiten 6?
Well, I think it's their best option at the moment. Did I not say that in the pre-season? Did I not say they would end up in that position somewhere?
Yeah, but you didn't say that they couldn't. They'd only win one game.
No, I didn't say that.
The coach would get the punt.
Certainly didn't say that. I didn't think it'd be a last resort.
No.
I thought it'd be a positive move. Be interesting for Cody. But they're both very professional, representative class players, and I think they need these players with their hands on the ball as often as possible. They need the team to be under their control, and I think it's a positive move. And that's nothing against Lachlan Elias or the other boy that's been playing at halfback. It's nothing against them at all. They're good kids, but when you're down and out, you need to make some big decisions, and they've made big decisions, and I applaud them for doing this. And I think that Whiten and Cody Walker can pull them out of the cellar over the second half of the competition.
So you've got Cook, Whiten, Walker, Mitchell as your spine.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be down the bottom.
Pretty special.
What's happened to, jog my memory, Hawkins? What was his injury?
I don't know what's happened to him.
Dean Hawkins, he got hurt. I can't remember what it was.
Did he get hurt or has he been dropped?
No, he got hurt.
Oh, okay. So they didn't do this out of...
Because the other kid...
they've done this out of necessity, haven't they?
Well, the other young...
I know when Lachlan...
Taupa, he got hurt. No, sorry, he's been dropped, but Hawkins was injured.
Yeah, I do know that when Lachlan Elias broke his leg, they were searching around at other clubs looking for trades for lower grade halfbacks because they just didn't have much coming through the system.
12 weeks with a what? Quad. Right.
It's a nasty quad.
Big muscle, that.
Another halfback doing a quad muscle. Go down it's my own personal theory. Right? Go down the park, kick the ball, and then try to kick it as high as you can, as often as you can. I think that there's something in that.
Never used to worry me when I was a kid, Gus. Used to whack them up in the air, big spiral bombs. Hey?
You did?
Yeah.
That I would have liked to see.
Oh, I was good.
Come on.
But there was no one. I wasn't playing. I was just kicking the ball to myself. All right, South Para. Wow. That's the most... How interesting is that? Brad Arthur will be a head coach again?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. He'll definitely head coach again. No risk about that. Feel sorry for him this week. Feel sorry when any coach loses their job. I found it strange that it happened this week, although in news that's come to hand, they probably made this decision at the start of the month and have kept it away from Brad and the rest of the team during that time whilst they went around trying to source their first choice replacement, which didn't come to fruition. But I would have thought as a club they'd have at least waited until Mitchell Moses came back into the side. I've been saying all along that they couldn't replace Mitchell. They've had a terrible record since he's been out, and that things would change when he came back in. I was astonished by what happened on the weekend. I thought the previous week they were really courageous against the Broncos, and I kept saying during that call, we called that game, I said, when Mitchell Moses comes back, this is going to be all right. They just need him there to bring everything else to life and get some more rewards out of their hard work. But what happened on the weekend? I mean, they were in that game. I think the score was only 14-10 or 16-10 when Munster got hurt and went off. And I thought, well, they're a real chance here. I did not see the second half coming at all. I did not see that, 32-6 in the second stander?
Something like that.
That's ridiculous.
Their try came right at the end.
That is ridiculous. I could not see that coming. And
it's happened twice this year, but when they played the Dolphins.
Yeah, I know. They're much, much better than that. Much better than that.
But I don't think it's just on this year's form either, Gus. They went from grand finalists to missing the 8 last year, and then this has sort of continued. So it's been a gradual decline.
But then look at what's available to coach. There are no experienced, successful coaches out there on the market. There was obviously Wayne Bennett. As they've admitted, that was their target. They've come out and admitted that's who we wanted. They've missed him, but still gone ahead and sacked their coach. I mean, if you're looking for the best coach who's not currently employed in the moment, it's Brad Arthur. If there was any other club in the league that was this week looking for a coach, Brad Arthur would get the job. I have no doubt about that. The only place he won't get a job now is Parramatta because they've decided that's over. I think he got a lot of support from his players. I think they were genuinely upset at the decision. But that's up for the Parramatta club. Only those within the club know whether or not this was absolutely had to be done. And now they're on the search for a new coach. There aren't many options available. I've got one suggestion, which I suggested on this show a couple of weeks ago.
Brian McDermott.
Brian McDermott. I think that he is at least worth a conversation for that club. 54 years of age, vastly experienced. He's fought in the army. He's been a professional sportsman himself, a footballer and a fighter, and he's coached Leeds with great success over there in the UK. He's been in Australia now for a couple of seasons, getting the feel of the NRL. It would be left field, and we've often asked whether or not they would take the punt on a UK Super League coach to come here to Australia. Now's a really good opportunity. There is nothing experienced over here that's on the market that I think suits the Parramatta mould and is available for them right now. Brian,
you're representing Brian McDermott.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you.
You've memorised his resume.
Well, he would be.
Yes.
He would be someone I would at least have a conversation with. If not to be head coach, he certainly would be part of their coaching structure going forward.
Yeah.
The thing for Parramatta is, and this is where I am with Parramatta, is that Brad Arthur, he's had 11 years, so it's hard to call him a victim, but Parramatta has never, ever really got into that developing their own character and developing their own... They've been a recruitment club, even though they've got a vast junior league and a wonderful nursery there. It's never really been the fruitful source of future players that they would have liked. I mean, there's 3 or 4 Penrith players in that side out of their academy. And there's more from Penrith than there are from Parramatta. I think underneath... I just think that they need someone who's going to create something for the future. Obviously, everyone has the aura of Wayne Bennett, and the lure of Wayne Bennett is immense for anyone, and maybe that can solve our problem. And that comes into the thinking that they expressed yesterday. We have a team we think is capable of winning a premiership right now. Therefore, we want a bloke who can win a premiership for us. Therefore, we go and get 74-year-old Wayne Bennett, who has shown repeatedly in all of his jobs, he's not there to develop a club for the long term. He's there to win you a comp, and then he moves on. He doesn't develop staff. He doesn't develop future coaches. He doesn't develop future rosters. He doesn't develop pathways. He's there just to coach the ones that you pick to play first grade and try and win a comp with it. And if that's what you want for Parramatta, but that's what Parramatta's done ever since the 80s.
Yeah, it's true. Because everyone keeps reminding them the last time they won one's 86.
That's all they've ever done. They've never taken a long-term plan to anything.
Do you think they've got a roster that can win a comp now?
Well, that's arguable. That's arguable. Certainly on current results, you wouldn't think that, would you?
No.
But everyone's fit and well. You've got Dylan Brown, you've got Mitchell Moses, you've got Gutherson, you've got 2 international class front row forwards, you've got emerging players there as well. Yeah, they've got a very, very capable roster. They certainly shouldn't be where they are on the ladder. They should be doing better, and that's what's cost Brady's job ultimately. But by the same token, Bennett comes in to do that job for a couple of years, gets you a good result, and then he moves on.
That's right. And the front rowers have only got a year left each.
I think they need more than that. I think the club needs more than that if they want to set the club up for the future. And I said, and even if Bennett came in and was successful doing that, or a coach did come in and get a short-term result, it doesn't necessarily fix it for the long term.
Yeah.
It's only my view. I'm not telling them how to suck eggs.
No, but that's your philosophy on things and trying to plan for the future. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to sort of address this idea that sometimes a change of coach can be a catalyst for a wider clean-out, a bit along the lines of what you've said. With respect to their playing roster...
But wait a minute. If you're saying that the new coach comes in, he's going to clean everything out, well, that would be totally opposite to what the decision makers in their club have said this week, in that we think we've got a club that can win the premiership. That's why these results are unacceptable. We need a coach that can fulfil, our belief in the club. Are they going to accept a coach coming in and say, well, this is all no good, we've got to get rid of this and clean it out?
The club needs to be fair dinkum with itself, Gus.
Well, what I'm saying is, even with Wayne Bennett, as great as he is, and there's no more greater admirer of what Wayne Bennett has done with his clubs than I, but Wayne Bennett is not there to set you up for the future.
Well, that's right. But they haven't got Wayne Bennett.
Exactly right. They haven't got Wayne Bennett.
So what are they?
But what's doing with the rest of it? And I don't know how Parramatta is set up internally. I've never really studied it. What I do know is I haven't seen the transitions from junior rep football through to first grade that one would expect of a club of that nature. And they recruit a hell of a lot.
By saying clean out, I suppose I mean restructure as well with what they do. And again, you don't have a bird's eye view inside of that club, but just with the way I was just thinking about the way their cap's set up. If you remember after 2021, they let 5 genuine NRL standard forwards leave. Mm-hmm. And they're doing good things at other clubs. They paid huge money for Brown and Moses and huge money for the 2 props. Now, the 2 props are, if you watch Parra this year, they're not going good at all. And I think they've got 1 year left each at Parra. Campbell Gillard's come out and said he might go to England after that. Is there an argument that a coach could come in and say, righto, boys, free to go? They might come in and say to Dylan Brown, free to go. Their roster, they've got Blaze Talangi, who's on the open market. But when anyone's seen him, they've got to try to keep him somehow. It looks a bit skew-if, their cap. Is that a fair assessment?
I think their window of premiership success, if they had one, closed a couple of years ago. They got through to a grand final. They were found well short from Penrith on to them. Penrith were in their prime at the time. Look, salary cap management and managing your roster for the short and long term is a science all of its own. It really is. And and what is the perfect makeup of a team? Well, we'll have a salary cap template, right? You'll have $10 million or $12 million to spend, and how much do we spend on all the positions in the team? Your fullback, your wingers, your centres, your halves, your forwards, your back row forwards, your edge forwards, your middle forwards, utility players, hookers, dummy halves, players that can play 2 or 3 positions. What's the ultimate template for all of that? Now, you can have a plan, but it doesn't always go to plan. And you might say, I'm going to allocate a certain amount of money for 2 wingers, but wingers come in all shapes and sizes, and they've got all types of skills, and some are goal kickers and some are not. You end up paying a premium for some. You might have 2, 3 really good tradesmen like front row forwards that don't command top dollar, but can do a job for you, but then you can go out and buy 2 really good back rowers.
Yes.
It's the simple model is you need 2 big front rowers and 4 spine players, and it doesn't matter who else plays for you. Well, that might stand up with some sides, but you've still got to have quality in those other positions, and that's where you would develop talent to come into those roles. If you haven't got those 2 big representative class forwards or a representative class spine, where else do you spend your money, and how do you get them into the system, and who become the leaders you go? The perfect salary cap template really rarely exists. You never really get to where you want to be. It's a guide for you in what you're going to pay certain players. And because we're now at 17 teams, soon to go to 18 and soon to go to 20 teams, because there's been a lack of development and a lack of investment in development, because there's been the COVID period where junior league football and rep football stopped, because we have a shortage of players, it's kind of catch and kill what you can get. That's what it's been. It's been catch and kill what you can get. And that doesn't often fit in with what's perfect for a rugby league template. And particularly teams at the bottom, you tend to overpay for players to get them in your system, all right, which there's going to affect you somewhere else along the way. So the time-honoured model for me has always been develop your own, buy on top when you've got the money to spend it. Parramatta have probably been a recruitment club for all that time, and they've probably got themselves into a position now where they've backed in that they want these 2 big front rowers, they want this half and 5'8". They've overspent for them, half and 5'8", not say overspent, but that's where they put their money.
Massive.
Gutherson's been there for a long time. They got to a grand final. It nearly came up with a premiership, but since then, as you said, they've had to let people go. I was
just trying to think. Marnie, Stone, Niokore, Kofusi,
Papali'i.
Isaiah Papali'i. all from the grand final time, they all went. Well, they're paying huge money for those props and the halves.
Yeah, but
and you're saying the premiership window's closed.
They could not have kept any of those players for the money they had available.
That's right.
They've got higher offers. It's like Penrith. Penrith's side is slowly melting away because they can't compete with the dollars for players if they go on the open market.
Yeah. No, but the point and that is a team, I think if you look at that Parramatta team, they lack a bit of depth, particularly in the pack.
Well, that comes to your development programs. That becomes to your pathways.
And they've let five of them go.
There's a lot of clubs in that boat. There's a lot of clubs in that boat. They're all sort of recognising now you need a development pathway system. The game is slowly recognising that's the case. But it's not easy to do. It takes you a decade to get it right. You know, it's as simple as that. People don't understand that. It really does. And it takes you 2 or 3 goes, 2 or 3 cycles to probably get to where you need to be. But it sets you up for the longer term. It's the guide to longer term success, is to have that in the system. And I don't think Parramatta have ever done that well enough.
Well, this is going to be very interesting because, as you mentioned, the club says we feel like we've got a roster that can contend.
They've got a competitive roster, no risk in the world.
But the reality is going to set in when they try to find a coach who comes in and says, "Look, I need to turn this playing roster over." They're going to be at loggerheads.
Yeah. Well, Bennett was their choice because they thought he could come in and win with the roster that they got. Maybe he could. He does that everywhere he goes.
Well, it's a poison. Well, then if the club's expecting a coach other than Bennett to come in and contend with that roster and they don't, what happens then?
Well, I can't answer that question.
it's a pretty prickly situation.
Well, there's no one on Bennett's platform of that type of to be able to do that. But Bennett's not going to come in and set you up for the future.
No.
South Sydney have got an enormous job. What Bennett does for South Sydney over the next 2 or 3 years is crucial for them. In a different role and under, South Sydney are running last at the moment. We just talked about their spine. They've got $1 billion spine.
$1 billion. What about Michael Maguire's he's been mentioned for all these jobs. He hasn't even picked an Origin team yet, and everyone's trying to get him a new gig.
He's picked a few Origin teams. They keep falling apart. They keep getting injured.
Jason Riles, Justin Holbrook, these sorts of blokes have been mentioned again.
It's not easy, mate. It's not easy. It's hard. And Parramatta, we know they were the team of the 80s. We were all around then. And they've had very little success since that time. They've played in a few grand finals, but haven't come up trumps. And it's a club and a supporter base that demands success. And that's led to the coach being given his marching orders this week, which is unfortunate. But replacement, there's no ready-made replacement there, I don't think.
All right, let's talk.
I would certainly be having a discussion with Brian McDermott.
Sean and Jim from Para. Gus has got his name. Go through Gus.
Don't come through me.
Little snip for Gussie.
Don't come through me.
Do you want to talk men's or women's Origin first?
I'll talk women's Origin.
What about that?
Brilliant game.
Nearly 2 million people watched here on 9. A total reach around the country of 2 million. Peter V'landys, the chairman of the ARL Commission, said it spoke to the strength of rugby league and the growth of women's rugby league. And New South Wales upset Queensland at Suncorp. It's been a while since a New South Wales team could walk away with victory at Suncorp Stadium, Gussie.
Brilliant coaching performance. I said on the panel after the game that, we talked about the girls and obviously players win games, but that was an extraordinary coaching performance. A lot of those New South Wales girls had not played for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, where Queensland have their own overage competition up there where a lot of girls were getting regular football. So it was just anticipated, A, with the strength of the Queensland side, and they have been beating us the last couple of years, and B, the fact that they've been playing football and our girls haven't. But they took them away for a 6-week camp. They got access to them for 6 weeks. They've obviously trained them very well. They went into the game with a lot of belief, and right from the opening whistle, they just ran Queensland off their legs and were too good for them. I think Queensland will see them coming this time. It'll be a great game in Newcastle for Game 2. Queensland need to win to square the series. But so far as the women's game, this is a tribute to all those that have been involved from the women's game from day one. If you'd have said when it first started those years ago that we would get to a point where they would be prime time, Thursday night, standalone, State of Origin, 3-game series, Suncorp Stadium, a crowd of 25, 30,000, however many were in the ground, people would go, yeah, you reckon? Well, there it is. It's happened. And it's only going to get bigger. It's not going away. This is a different sport whatsoever. It's not the NRL. This is rugby league played by women. It's its own product. It's its own brand of football. And it's great to watch. And we've seen it by the numbers of people viewing it. It's around to stay. A lot of clubs now are investing in their women's program. The NRLW competition is only getting bigger. The feeder competitions are only getting bigger. There is more money being spent on it. Governments, corporates are all keen to have the women's profile, the profile of women's sport improved in this country. It's important for the growth of our young, whether they play sport or not, it's important for the confidence and self-esteem and growth of young women in this country to see high-achieving and performing sports people in female sports, not just rugby league, in all sports. Our Matildas, look at what they've done. Probably, if not one of the more popular teams in our country. When the Matildas play, everyone watches, everyone stops what they do. And the Origin product, these girls did it proud. For New South Wales and Queensland, they really did. They did Origin, the concept of Origin and the profile of Origin. You could proudly put the Origin banner on the women's code that played there on Thursday night and say, well, that was Origin football, the best of the best. A lot of them good mates, but they just played against each other and went at it passionately as our boys do, as our men do. And I thought they did an outstanding job, and it's wonderful product, wonderful quality.
Well said. Well said. And the people watching it out in public, they weren't watching it for novelty value. They were watching it because it was Origin footy.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the feeling even at the ground, we could feel it in the atmosphere and whatever. And the girls build up and the way they responded to it after. And New South Wales, to go there to Suncorp and win at anything, doesn't matter what it is, to win at anything is a marvellous achievement. And they really did it. They dominated it from the front and they beat them fair and square. And Queensland have got to go away and get an answer, which we know they will. But Newcastle, you get a chance now to pack it out. Newcastle Stadium, what is that, on the 6th of June?
Yep.
6th of June, Thursday night, Newcastle Stadium. It's the night after the first Origin, isn't it?
Yep.
The first men's Origin. Be there, get there, pack it out and support the Blues girls and see if we can't wrap up the series there.
If you wanted a place to try and wrap up the series, Newcastle's your place, baby.
Absolutely. Then we'll go to Townsville and give it to them again there. But let's get one job at a time. We have to win in Newcastle. Right? We don't want to be going to Townsville for a decider. Don't want that. Don't need that.
Come on, Newcastle fans.
Newcastle fans, get yourself out there. Support the girls.
Now, I'm not going to draw you on picking teams on this great podcast because you just won't do it.
There's still around to go.
But I'm going to draw you on key areas of concern for both states.
In other words, pick the teams.
Pretty much. I'm going to start, though, with Queensland, okay? So you can mock them first. Now, the King has picked his Origin team.
Yep.
Here's the Kings, Queensland 17. Walsh, Coates and Hammer. Selwyn Cobbo in the centres with Val Holmes. Dearden wins the 6 with Cherry Evans. Collins, Grant, Fotuaika. Fafita, Cotter, Carrigan. Then Hunt, Welsh, Nane, Hopgood. That's what the King thinks.
Yeah.
So, I ask you, the 6. Now, Dearden's going to be the 6. They've pretty much told us that because he was the 6 when they had the decider 2 years ago and he nailed it.
Yeah, I think he's got the inside running there. I'm kind of Hammer-So in the centres and Selwyn on the wing.
Yes.
Rather than the other way around. Mm-hmm. And they could interchange at different times during the game.
What do you got? You got the team here.
Never you mind.
He's been like the team.
No, I haven't.
He's got the team.
No one's picked the team.
He's got the Queensland and the New South Wales team. How'd you get that?
Never. No one's picking teams.
Have you picked that?
Leave me alone.
He's picked his team. He's picked. You are a hypocrite.
No, I'm not.
You've even colour-coded it.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
I can't.
You want an
believe
answer?
this.
I knew this is what you'd ask me on the podcast.
I can't believe this.
So I've done my homework.
He's picked his teams.
I'd be picking Christian Welsh and Lindsay Collins in the front row. I think Christian Welsh still gives them a lot of experience, and Fotuaika can be good off the bench. Ben Hunt, the whole idea of Ben Hunt and Harry Grant has worked for them. Ben Hunt starting, coming back to the bench, and then he's a backup for anything that happens in the halves afterwards. Back row, whether they start with Fafita or not, I don't know.
Did he start last year?
Jaden Sewer is a player that I think needs to be in this side. I like him. I think Patrick Carrigan needs to be in the side. Ruben Cotter probably to start the game.
So where you start him at prop?
I'd start him nearly at back row. just to have all those forwards out there early on in the game. I think Jermaine Hopgood, Jeremiah Nanai and Fadawaka is a really good, young, aggressive bench that can change the fortune of the game if they're behind, or they can certainly ram it home if they're on top. Let's hope they're not. So that's not many changes to what the King picks there.
Yep.
But he knows better than me. Certainly Tommy Dearden at this stage. I asked David Fifita, not David Fifita, I asked Billy Slater whether or not he would play Ezra Mam in an Origin, and he said, yes, I would. But I got the feeling that right at the moment, Dearden is probably the more seasoned of the two.
They haven't forgotten what he did.
Yeah. So I'd expect that to be the case.
You know what I was actually just thinking before we came in here what they could do, which I'm sure they won't. They could play Ben Hunt at 5'8" and Ezra Mam off the bench.
I don't think they'll do that. I think the whole Harry Grant coming off the bench thing has worked for them, and I don't think they'll change that. They won't change that until it fails, or until Harry says, I want to start. I don't know how that will work.
All right, well, given you've got your blue colour-coded New South Wales team, did you want to tell us what it is, or do you want me to do the same thing?
No, you go. Who's picked your team?
No, I'm just asking you about areas that...
See, New South Wales, I think there's going to be a couple of shocks for New South Wales.
Well, what are they?
I think there's going to be shocks. No, I'll just leave it to
Well, come on, you got your colour-coded Blues team.
I'm just saying. I just think there'll be a couple of shocks.
Well, Nico's 7 because there's no one else, right? You lock him in?
Well,
not only because of that, but there's no challenger now.
No. Yeah, so
Hines.
Yeah. Well, unless they went with Luai at halfback, but it will be Hines, I'd imagine.
I spoke to someone over the weekend, and you know more than me, but this person who has his ear to the ground said, I don't even think Luai's in the conversation.
Yeah, well, I think he is.
Centres. Now, Crichton's one, but who's the other? Because Staggs is out now too. Bradman Best is unavailable.
Yeah.
I was wondering if Matt Burton might slide in.
Chance, or the
Ramian. Ramian's the other tip.
Chance.
Yeah.
Or the Rooster Boys, or Leahy.
In the centres.
Depends what they do on the wings, whether or not they pick a Lomax. Brian To'o will be one of the wingers.
Yes.
The other winger could be a Lomax. It could be a Suoli'i.
Could it be an Edwards?
I've said don't pick Dylan Edwards on the wing.
Okay.
Not that I've said that to selectors. I don't even know who, but I don't want Dylan Edwards to start his Origin career on the wing. I think that's grossly unfair. I think Dylan Edwards will be the fullback.
You think he will be the fullback?
I think he will.
Wow. You think he will be in the team?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, not you would pick him, but you think he will be picked?
I think so.
Okay. Gus thinks Dylan Edwards. Now, Gus, this is what I really wanted to hit you about. 2 champions of New South Wales Rugby League this week have started a push for Latrell Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Gallen has named him, as you know, and I'm doing Freddie in the 8th after we do this podcast, and I can reveal that Brad Fittler has included Latrell Mitchell at left centre.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reaction?
I think that's his spot at Origin level. No risk in the world.
That would be a huge gamble on form, wouldn't it?
Not on form. No, his form's all right.
Would you consider it a huge gamble?
I don't think it's a gamble. I think he can influence the result. It'll be whether or not he wants to play. Wasn't there talk a few weeks ago he was going to pull out?
Yeah. Well, that hasn't happened. Well, not that we know publicly.
Yeah, they named him a couple of times last year and he was injured. Yeah. He pulled out early. I don't know. You'd have to ask Latrell whether he was really passionate about it.
Would you fall over if Latrell Mitchell's name was read out?
No one would. Why would they fall over? He's easily one of the elite talents in the game. No risk in the world. But does Latrell want to do it? Does he really want to do it? You know, Jack White, and
he's out.
He's not going to play. He said he's not going to make himself available. I can't understand.
So you can understand Gal and Freddie both saying Latrell.
Everyone can see his talent. Everyone knows he's got the talent to do it. But what's his record at Origin? How often has he played? He hasn't played all that often in recent times.
Okay.
He can win it for you. There's no risk in the world Latrell can win it for you. I don't think he's a fullback at Origin level.
No.
He can be a fullback at club level. I don't think he's a fullback at Origin level.
As you know better than anyone, though, you need to be all in if you're going to play in an Origin game. There's no hiding.
You need to be all in. You need to be 110% in. It'll find you out if you're not.
Who's Payne Haas's front row partner?
Look, I can't understand why they wouldn't go with Jake. Jake's got to be there somewhere. Jake is just the glue that holds that whole system together. If Jake was a Queenslander, he'd be one of the first picked. You know, we fumble around sometimes looking for the next big thing or what have you. I'm a Regan Campbell-Gillard fan myself, but Parramatta's going pretty ordinary.
Who are the other... New South Wales are short on middles.
They are. Well, no, they're short on middles that are in form.
Yeah, yep.
You know, I love Campbell-Gillard and I love Junior Paulo. I love them. I love them both. I think they're outstanding. I can't understand why Parramatta's doing what it's doing. But the form's just not there. You've got to show something coming into Origin. I'm quite sure if they named them, they'd go out and do the job. But are they in good enough form at the moment to pick? Well, club form hasn't been that great, has it? I could trust them, but I don't know whether the new coach will. I think the new coach made his statement. He wanted to pick form players that were doing the job at club level. And I think that's the way he'll go. I think you'll look at the winning teams and why they're winning. I think that's why Cameron McGuinness comes into it. I'm quite sure Connor Watson would have been a bench player before he got injured.
Connor Watson?
I could feel the noise around it. This is what I'm saying about shocks. I could feel Connor Watson being a part of this squad.
Wow.
If injury hadn't cut him out, because they're looking for that versatile bench player. I think a bloke like Cameron McGuinness, with his leadership and everything he's doing at the Cronulla Sharks, why are the Cronulla Sharks leading the competition? That's the first question I ask. Why is this team leading the competition? Who's responsible? Well, him, and him.
Because he sticks his head in front of everyone.
They qualify for New South Wales. Good. Yeah, well, okay. How can I get that into my team? That's how the system should work.
He's got to be there, McInnes.
That's how the system should work. You know, I think Liam Martin at the Panthers is a mainstay of representative sides at the moment. So too is Asai Yeo. He's a mainstay of representative teams at the moment. The big one will be the other back row position. Angus Crichton. I mean, Roosters signed Fafita over the top of him 2 weeks ago. Now they're trying to keep him. I mean,
playing best footy ever.
They were shopping him around all last year. I mean, now he could be the Origin back rower again. Probably should be the Origin back rower again this week. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. Hamoli Olakau'atu, I think, is in the picture. A lot of people pushing for Spencer Leniu, which goes against my belief about Origin selection. I like 80-minute players, proven 80-minute performers, even if you're going to play them off the bench. Spencer, throughout his career, has been an impact player from the bench. And can he do that job in Origin? Maybe.
What's your concern there?
That if someone got hurt early and he had to go out there and play for 70 minutes... Yeah. That would be my concern, because he's never ever done it.
But if they picked a pack where you could get 80 minutes out of a number of players,
well, they've got to cover a few things. They've got to cover a few things from the bench. They've got to cover people who can play in the halves, people who can move to the outside backs to cover for the loss of a winger or centre, cover a fullback. I mean, how are you going to do this in your team if this happens? You know, who covers for fullback if the fullback goes down? Who covers for a winger if there's a HIA or he gets injured? Who covers for a half if someone goes down? Look at what happened to them last year. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Trbojevic goes down in the first minute of the centre and replaced him with Damien Cook. I mean, you can't allow that to happen.
And then Gutho came in for game 3 and got 10 seconds on the field.
And the odds of it happening are, 100 to 1, but sure enough... It's like going for your school exams. You know, if you don't read chapter 11, you know where the questions will come from, don't you? You can read every other chapter. The questions will come from chapter 11. It's the same with football. If you go into a game worried that you haven't got one position covered, first thing will happen is you'll clash heads or you'll get hurt.
So that's where Connor Watson came from.
Connor Watson covers so many. Like, there's probably no better utility at the moment running around in that area.
What about a Tungor? Which gives you versatility, then he could play centre back row.
Does. The bloke that I haven't heard mentioned who's having an outstanding year in a team where they've had to play a lot of positions is Josh Curran. Josh Curran, playing for the Bulldogs, has had he's played front row, lock forward, edge forward. Like, he could cover anywhere in that side. He could cover centres if he had to. He's another player that I'd sort of be considering, but
tough kid.
I don't know that he'll get a look into in this first one. Hudson Young for the Canberra Raiders is a player I've really got. You got Cody Walker. Be interested to see how he goes at half this week. But he was extraordinary in Game 3 last year, which they won comfortably. As you say, Bradman Best is not going to be there. I think you're going to be shocked by this team.
Well, if it's the team you've got written down, well, yeah.
I think it's going to...
Given Michael Maguire's already emailed it to you.
I think... No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
He's come in... This is the bloke who refuses to pick Origin teams. He's coming with a colour-coded, big league style New South Wales and Queensland lineup for Game 1. You're the best. I'd love to know where that came from. Is that the one they leave lying around so people think that's the team when they pick a completely different one?
No. What, the dead soldier?
He's got sources everywhere.
Put your battle plans on the left. Yeah,
you're
I
the
think,
best.
and we've got to get through another weekend of injuries and suspensions yet. You've got to get to the medical. All right, so this week we can start to talk about it in earnest, and next week we certainly will. Next week we'll be sitting here looking at the teams they've picked.
You'll have a proper program in front of you. Here's the Origin Casualty Ward, by the way. Flegler, Tino, Brimson, Gilbert, Munster, Ponga, Tom, Moses, Reynolds, Graham, Cleary, Murray, Best. Then you can add Staggs, who's out. It's a few out, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
All right.
My media girl's ringing me from the Bulldogs. What's happening?
Oh, no.
When I see her name come up, I always think there's trouble. All right.
Scotty B wants to know if Eli Katoa is the most improved player in the NRL.
Eli Katoa. I had some first-hand experience with Eli when he was at the Warriors, and I could never understand how he left the Warriors and ended up at the Melbourne Storm. I thought that was a brilliant buy from them. Now, when he played with the Warriors, he hadn't played much rugby league. I think he'd come out of a rugby background, and he might have only played 12 months of rugby league before he made the Warriors' first-grade side. But I saw an edge back row with plenty of potential and good size and speed. And after I left the Warriors during the COVID to take on a role at the Bulldogs, I sort of followed him with interest, and I thought he would be a long-standing Warriors player for a long time.
Yeah.
Suddenly ended up at the Melbourne Storm, and I thought, well, gee whiz, I wonder what went wrong there. But at the Melbourne Storm, he's going on the trajectory I expected him to take. He's a quality athlete. And,
Is he what?
Lovely kid, very humble. Very good.
I love their back row. I love Blore. I love Sean Blore. I've always loved Sean.
Sean Blore was in the Panthers Academy. We had him when he was young. He had a elder brother, Dean, who was a half.
He's talented, Sean Blore, and aggressive.
My last year at the Panthers, Sean had an off-season. He trained that off-season. And he got to the end of it a bit worse for wear. Some young fellas come in and train against the men and they struggle a little bit. And he probably struggled a little bit. He showed his potential. And then he got a couple of bad injuries. I think he got an ACL and he got this, and he went off to the West Tigers and got another injury. And then I thought at the back end of his time at the West Tigers, he was really starting to find his feet. He's also a kid that, to be honest, some kids mentally struggle with the higher grade and the level of football in that they're a little bit introverted, they're a little bit shy, they're a little bit...
It'd be very daunting.
They have anxiety, and you're talking about forwards playing against the best in the game, and Sean had second-guessed himself a lot, I always found, which is often the case with young people coming into first grade. Not all of them take to it like a duck to water. It's a process they've got to go through. But right now, he's really come into himself. He's playing confidently. He's playing with a good team. He's actually coming up with plays that win games or influence the scoreboard. And he's really realising his potential. When he was 18, he played for New South Wales in the under-18s. You might have to check this. And he played against David Fafita.
Yeah, right.
And I remember there was a tackle. Fafita looked like scoring. And Sean Blore grabbed him, picked him up, dumped him on his back, slammed him into the ground, and that was the end of the game. And really showed his potential at that time. So I think he's around the same age or in the same era as David Fafita was at the same time. They played Origin against each other as kids. Sean's just been a little bit slow maturing. It's just, sometimes it's an anxiety thing, a self-belief thing, a self-confidence thing. And these are the things that, there's no rhyme or reason to that. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just they're not quite ready for it. And
the way he's going now,
well, he's mature now. He's a man now.
He looks great.
He's a young man now, and he's, and he'll have 10 years in front of him. He's a really good player. And Melbourne Storm, that's where they're good. With their recruitment, that's when they find that sort of player that's probably underachieved or people are undervalued to this time, or he's not quite, the system he's been in hasn't quite brought him on. Remembering at Panthers, he was playing behind all those great players that they had, so he probably wasn't going to get a look in there anyway for a few more years. Went off to the Tigers to a struggling club and probably didn't, measure up. He got a bad ACL injury and just had time off, and every now and then one of them slips through the cracks. So up in that time, Sean Blore had slipped through the cracks. Melbourne realised it, picked him up, and they've produced a winner.
They got a team full of them.
Yeah,
Josh King, Dick Meaney.
Pretty astute with their recruitment, aren't they?
Now, I love this question by Harry, and I love the way that Ricky Stewart and the Raiders continually link back to the history of their club. Because and that's something you've got a great history at Canterbury, and I reckon it's excellent to see the current players paying tribute to those that have gone before them. Harry says, after seeing the tribute given to him by the Raiders in the dressing rooms on Friday night, and remembering that you coached him at the Roosters, can you give us your experience working with the late Quentin Pongia?
Oh, right, yeah. No, a man's man, an alpha male, tough. I coached a lot against Quentin. He was always someone that we had to contend with, and got to know him when he came to the Roosters. He was at the back end of his career when he came to the Roosters, but we had some young forwards there that I thought he could have a real influence on, and he did. He had a short time at the Roosters, but an influential one, and a lot of kids benefited from having him with him. A very, very popular player wherever he went. He was an international class player. Ricky Stewart talks about him as one of the toughest men he ever knew, and I saw that firsthand myself at the back end of his career. And it was a wonderful tribute. It was, the Canberra Raiders, what they did the other night in honouring their 1994 premiership winning team.
One of the best teams ever.
Yeah, we was one of the greatest teams of all time. Right. But we did a similar thing a few weeks ago with the Bulldogs. We honoured our 2004 team and brought them all to a dinner with the players, and we went out to beat, funny enough, the Roosters that night. The next night we went out and beat the Roosters. So it's a big thing for the modern day players to learn about the history of the club and to get to meet the great players of the past. But the one thing they respond to most of all is that when they get to meet the great players of the past, how supportive the great players are of the modern day players today. For our blokes to sit there and for the 2004 blokes to say, we're really with you, we think you're going good, you think you're doing this and doing that, if you need anything at all, come and have a beer. And it would have been the same, I'd imagine, for the Raiders the other night, having all those legends in the room that genuinely wanted them to do well. Once you're in that club and you've experienced a premiership with a club, you always want them to do well, and you're always supportive of the modern day player coming through. And, clubs have that, and I know it would be a big thing with Ricky, and he got his team up for a performance the other night, and they had to win. But we experienced it earlier in the year with the Bulldogs, and it makes a difference. It does make a huge difference when you have those nights where you want to. Newcastle Knights are renowned for it. Old boys' day at the back end of the season. Whoever they play that day is in for a tough day because the old boys are there, and the young fellas want to carry on the tradition, and they want to play well in front of the old legends. The most pleasing thing is how much the older players or former players of the club are so supportive of what's happening. And even if the club's struggling, they're not critical of it. They're supporting. What can we do to help? Can we come down to training? Can we have a talk? Can we go for a beer with them? Can we go out for a dinner with them? Happy to sit around the dressing room and do whatever. We're always getting offers and phone calls from former players saying, can I help? They don't ring up and say you should be doing this and should be doing that. They don't come up and tell you how you should be coaching or what you should be doing. They're saying, can we help? Can we help? Can we get in and tell you what happened with us? We won the comp, but we struggled. We worried about things. There were things that, we had some bad times as too. So you're not the only one feeling it at the moment. And sometimes you've got to overcome adversity and they can tell those stories. And the modern day players really appreciate that sort of support from former players and former senior players and former champions with the club. So, Raiders did it well the other night.
94 Raiders versus 2004 Bulldogs would be a good game.
Certainly would.
Two brilliant teams.
You wouldn't fit either under the salary cap.
It's a bit sensitive, that one. As we head to the break, I've brushed the trivia for Gus today. Season 3 of Stories of Origin is out now. You maybe would have tuned in. If you haven't, you should look it up in your podcast feed. This season it focuses on one of the greats, the great Alan Langer. Episode 3 launched this week. It's called St George Can't Play, if you famously remember him up on stage after a couple of nights of celebration after they won the comp. It's focusing on the beginning of the Brisbane Broncos and features some wonderful yarns. Indigenous round 12. We're nearly halfway through the year, Gus. What about that?
Long way to go, Matthew. Long way to go. You might think it's halfway, but there's a long way to go.
So, we kick off Thursday night footy, live and free from 7:30 from Accor Stadium. The Bulldogs and the Dragons. You should wear your 1980s jerseys just to make it all the more authentic. Now, what's happening at Canterbury? Jamin Salmon's back, Josh Curran to the bench, and they're fresh up off the bye, the Dragons. So they'll take benefit from a little bit of extra rest, perhaps.
Yeah, it's the second week in a row the Bulldogs have played someone coming off the bye, so and a short turnaround for the Bulldogs as well. Tough game against the Panthers, tough game against the Raiders. Got to back up against the Dragons, who have named a very big side. I think Luciano Leilua is now back in the side, so they're pretty much at full strength. They're a big, aggressive team. That'll be quite the game on Thursday night.
Cowboys versus West Tigers, 6 o'clock, the Friday early game. This one, same team for North Queensland. The poor old Tigers, they can't take a trick. Two new centres, Declan Casey and Josh Folletti, come into the back line. Isaiah Papali'i does come back, but they do have a number of players missing, and it's going to be a testing trip to Townsville.
Yes, it will be. Every time I watch the West Tigers play, and I said it again on the weekend with their performance up there on Magic Round, there's a good side emerging there that is not having much luck with injury and getting continuity of personnel. He's a good young player, Lachlan Galvin. He really is. To be doing what he's doing at his age, and I know he's playing with injury at the moment.
Is he?
I reckon he's got an ear injury, an arm injury that he's playing with, which for an 18-year-old is very brave. I would have to think Cowboy might get away with that one, given the changes to the West Tigers side.
All right, Friday night footy, live and free, 7:30, Four Pines, Brookie, Manly, Melbourne. Of course, no Tom Trbojevic, but young Kohler, he's an exciting footballer, isn't he? I think he played fullback coming through, didn't he, Gus?
Yeah, he's very, very quick. He's not the creative player that Tom is, but he certainly takes advantage of the creativity in front of him. I thought the Manly should have beaten Brisbane the other night. I thought they were very, very brave. They got off to a bad start. They were down 12-0 after 10 minutes. But for the rest of the game, I thought were very, very good and showed a lot of spirit there. But it is the Melbourne Storm, and Jerome Hughes is back.
But Munster's gone.
There is just something about this Melbourne, the DNA in their club, the football DNA in their club is just very, very hard to withstand at times. I'm going to go Storm.
Storm to win at Brookie. Yep. Saturday, 3 o'clock. It's getting chilly. I had a frost on my car this morning, which means it'll be very cold in Canberra. Mm-hmm. Raiders versus Roosters. Well, they're chugging along. Ricky's men, couple of consecutive victories after they got flogged in the first game without Jamal Fogarty. Now, Jordan Rapana and Joseph Tapine both okay to play after they were given monetary fines out of Magic Round. Joey Manu, though, comes back into the centres. So the Roosters are closing in on full strength. They've got a bloody good side.
Yeah, I tipped Shark to beat Rooster last week simply because Joseph Manu was out, because he saves them in a lot of games. He's the difference between winning and losing, despite the fact they've got a roster you can't jump over. Joey Manu invariably is the one that makes the difference between winning and losing. He is back this week, which is going to make a big difference. Raiders, very resilient, very tough. I just don't think they're going to have the points in them. Look at the bench for the Roosters. Egan Butcher, Spencer Leniu, Terrell May on the bench. And that's Nat Butcher not in the top 17. Siwa Wong not in the top 17. Crikey. Even though down at Canberra, it's 3 o'clock on a Saturday, so that won't be too bad. I think Rooster will bounce back.
What about this game? 5:30. Saturday, PointsBet Stadium. You will not be able to swing a cat, as they say. I'm going down there for the continuous call team with Darryl Broman and Paul Gallen to call Cronulla and Penrith, baby. Mm-hmm. Sharkies unchanged. Panthers have got Liam Henry back on the bench, but Luke Garner's out with concussion. He left the field early in that game. Jerome Luai still 7, Jack Cole still 6. Of course, Nathan missing is causing some problems, but wow, what a clash. Just one loss for the year for the Sharkies.
Sold out, all that be, they've got restricted numbers down there, but sold out as it should be. 5:30 on a Saturday night. Well, it should be, I don't think anyone saw this game as being the match of the round or the heavyweight clash that it is right at the moment at the start of the year. I said several weeks ago people were questioning the Sharks' draw and hadn't really played anyone of merit, and then we highlighted the fact that they were about to play Storm away, Roosters up in Magic Round, and then Penrith at home. And I said if they came through those 3 games, I said they're perfectly primed for them, and if they win all 3, then they are entitled to be considered premiership favourites, and I think they'll do it. I think they'll get the trifecta this week. I think there is too much cohesion and connectivity with the Sharks at the moment to beat what looks like a disjointed Panthers outfit. First time in a long time they've looked a little bit disjointed. A few things fell apart for them on the weekend against the Warriors in defence and in attack. Taking nothing away from the Warriors, but there have been some significant changes here to the Panthers over the last 12 months and again recently. And I just think the Sharks are too settled and too close to full strength. They are at full strength, and I think they'll do the Cronulla. I can feel it at the end of the game. Up, Cronulla. Off they go. It drives me mad, that song.
You can't get it out of your head either.
The Bermuda Triangle.
I'm glad you mentioned that song. I'll be thinking about it all day. Rabbitohs, Eels. We've already had a little comment about this one. Accor Stadium, 7:30. So the big change in the halves is noteworthy, and it's the same team pretty much for Parramatta under the coaching of Trent Barrett. Can I just say, Jermaine Hopgood carried that team last week. He's a bloody good player, isn't he?
He is a very, very good player. He's a very, very good player. Come out of the Panthers system, Queenslander. He could well find himself on the bench for the Maroons. He's an Origin.
Was he in your colour-coded list?
He's on an Origin type player. Look, Souths are going to win one shortly. So who can they beat? Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Parramatta players respond to the news this week. Look, Souths are going to win one shortly. They are going to win one. They're going to win more than one. They're going to win a few. And with the news this week that Bennett's now put signature to sign, there seems to be a little bit of joy there at Souths at the moment, even though they're not winning. I thought they improved on the weekend. Parramatta are all over the place at the moment. I think if South Sydney can just hang in there, why not? How long since we've tipped South to win a game? Chayara, Kalamatangi. Yeah, I'm going to tip Rabbit.
2 o'clock Sunday, Broncos, Titans. Reece Walsh back. Billy Walters back. Tom Weaver played good for the Titans actually on the weekend.
Yeah, good little player. Titans, they consider themselves unlucky. They had that game shot. They were a mile in front. Second half was poor for them. It was a bit of a throwback to last year, wasn't it?
But they didn't score a point in the second half. Bizarre.
No, well, they did, but they disallowed it.
Well, yeah, that's right. On the scoreboard.
I'm going to go Bronco, but I won't be surprised if the Titans give them a run for their money.
And Sunday footy features the Warriors up the Wars, up against the Dolphins. This one is in New Zealand at Go Media Stadium in Auckland. Is there anyone back? Right, a triple boost for the Warriors with Rocco Berry, Marata Niokore and Freddie Lussick all back on deck, but Wade Egan is out because he got a head knock and he's got to sit out the compulsory stand-down period. The Dolphins have Max Plath back from concussion, Kenny Bromwich to the bench.
Yes. I'm going to declare Warrior is back, baby.
Ooh, declare.
I'm going to declare Warrior is back. Gee, they're going good, the Dolphins. They're really going well. Good game.
You just declare the Warriors.
I know, good game, but I keep looking through their side and they're so competitive and the old coach just keeps them ticking over. I just think back at home, big crowd coming off the win, go the Wars.
Wars to win.
We'll go the Wars. So let me go back to the start. Okay, we've got, I'm going to tip Cowboy to beat Tiger, Storm to beat Seagull, Rooster to beat Raider, Joey Manu to beat Raider, Shark to beat Panther. I think they're good things. Rabbit to beat Eel. They're due for a win. Bronco to beat Titan after a real struggle. Wouldn't surprise me, Titan. Local derby. They do trouble the Bronco. And I think Warrior to beat Dolphin.
Very good, Gus. This time next week we'll have the Origin teams. Never too early to talk Origin, but we're nearly there. You better go and ring the club back.
I'm just telling you, you're going to be shocked next week.
Yeah.
You're going to be shocked.
I'm never shocked in this great game.
I know what it is. We're going to announce the signing. That's what we're going to do.
Ah, yes. You can announce it here if you like. It's already in the paper.
Yeah, we're going to sign Tom Amone. He's going to come back and play for us for a couple of years.
Good on you.
Coming back from Lee in the UK.
The Lee Leopards.
Yep, done really well. He's probably been the best forward in England for the last couple of years. How he ended up there, I don't know. He was playing for Wayne Bennett at South and then got injured and COVID hit and somehow he's one that just slipped through the cracks, I reckon. He's gone over to England. He's done extremely well across there. And,
Gee, your tentacles extend far and wide. Where's Daniel Saluka Fafita?
He's ticking over all right. Coming off an ACL, so we're just being a little cautious. We've signed him for this year, for next year, but I think he'll be back. Where are we? Round 11?
Mm-hmm. 12 coming up.
12 coming up. I think round 14. I think we've got another game, then a bye. I think he'll come around after the bye.
Oh, the troops are coming.
Yeah.
Go the Dogs.
You'll probably need a couple in New South Wales Cup before it comes in.
See you over the weekend.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie in the Own.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.